I thought winning my freedom meant the nightmare was over. I was wrong. The deeper I stepped into the life I built, the more I realized my greatest enemy wasn't outside my family, it was inside it. And when the mask finally slipped, I discovered a secret so dark, it threatened not only my future but my very life. This isn't just a story of betrayal, it's a war for survival. Cambria Voss had always felt like a shadow in her own life. At 33, she was a successful digital content creator living in Portland, Oregon. Yet memories of being overlooked by her family still lingered like a dull ache. Growing up in a stately brick house in the quiet Rosemont neighborhood, she watched her parents, Victor and Sylvia Voss, dote on her older brother, Julian, while she faded into the background. Her father, a high-powered corporate attorney, spent evenings immersed in work calls. Her mother, busy orchestrating family appearances and social obligations, hardly had time to notice Cambria's quiet accomplishments. Julian, the golden child, excelled in school, sports, and social endeavors, and the praise heaped upon him seemed never-ending. Cambria remembered her 10th birthday vividly. Julian had received a sleek new bike, polished and perfect, while she got a sweater far too big. Her parents' words, "You'll grow into it," had barely touched her heart. At school, Cambria excelled in writing and photography, but accolades at home were non-existent. She learned early that recognition from her family was a luxury she could not expect. Despite the neglect, Cambria nurtured a spark within herself. Late nights were spent scribbling storyboards and filming small clips with her handheld camera. The local park, the sound of rain on pavement, even the way sunlight hit a coffee cup on the windowsill, all became subjects of her miniature films. These tiny pieces of art were her refuge, the only space where she could truly be seen. Her first real breakthrough came at 17 during a summer workshop at a nearby media studio. The instructor, Ms. Marjorie Lane, recognized something unique in her eye for storytelling. "Cambria," she said one afternoon, pointing at the screen of her clunky laptop, "you see the world differently. Enter your work in the Portland Youth Film Festival. You deserve to be seen." Cambria hesitated, fear gnawing at her. Her family had never come to her recitals, her art shows, or her debate tournaments. Would they even care this time? But something in Ms. Lane's encouragement lit a fire she couldn't ignore. She entered, pouring her soul into a short video capturing the city's quiet moments, the glint of a puddle, a street musician strumming softly under a lamppost, the laughter of children chasing pigeons. The night of the festival, Cambria sat alone in the back row, hands clutching her program. The lights dimmed, and the films began. When her video played, the audience was silent, absorbed in her vision. By the end, applause erupted, filling the small auditorium. She won first place, clutching her modest trophy, scanning the crowd in vain for her parents. As expected, their seats were empty. It was a familiar ache, but Cambria didn't crumble. Instead, she doubled down on her passion. She started her YouTube channel, Voss Vision, sharing clips that highlighted beauty in small, overlooked moments. Her early videos garnered modest views, but each comment from strangers, people who truly saw her, was more rewarding than any applause she had ever longed for at home. College only amplified her drive. She earned a scholarship at Portland State University, majoring in digital media. To cover expenses, she juggled part-time jobs at a local cafe and freelance editing gigs. Late nights in her small apartment were spent editing videos, experimenting with short-form storytelling, and learning everything she could about social media trends. During her second year, she met Lucas Reed, a mechanical engineer working on a renewable energy project at the university. Their first meeting was casual. He offered to help her carry a stack of editing books, but a spark ignited immediately. Lucas was steady, warm, and unexpectedly attentive. He listened when she vented about family, offered gentle advice, and shared quiet laughter over coffee breaks. Slowly, he became her anchor in a world that often seemed indifferent. Cambria's career began to take off after graduation. She launched Voss Creative Studio, a boutique media company focusing on storytelling for small businesses. Initial struggles were brutal, Late nights, tight budgets, and clients who questioned her methods, but her perseverance paid off. Local cafes, bookstores, and boutique shops became her first clients. Eventually, bigger brands noticed, and her company grew, eventually boasting 1 million followers across social media platforms. Her personal life flourished alongside her career. Lucas became her unwavering support, attending launch events, offering advice, and sharing quiet evenings that felt like the home she never had with her family. When Lucas proposed on a foggy Portland pier, just the two of them with the city lights reflecting on the water, Cambria felt whole for the first time. "Cambria," he whispered, "you're my home." She said yes, heart racing, imagining a life built on love and respect, not on approval she would never get from her parents. The wedding planning was intimate, a rooftop ceremony in downtown Portland with string lights and their closest friends. Cambria invited her family, hoping, against hope, they would finally show up. On the day, she wore a flowing ivory gown, her nerves alive with excitement. But as she stepped onto the rooftop, scanning the guests, her chest tightened. The seats meant for her parents and brother were empty. No calls, no apologies. The ceremony proceeded beautifully. Lucas' eyes locked on hers, friends cheered, but the absence of her family was a deep, familiar wound. Life after the wedding brought both triumphs and challenges. Cambria and Lucas settled into a loft overlooking the Willamette River. Voss Creative Studio expanded rapidly. Her team now handles major campaigns for tech startups, local brands, and national companies. She thrived professionally, yet her family's silence haunted her. She didn't reach out, realizing she no longer needed validation from those who had never truly cared. Months later, Cambria shared a photo on social media of her new luxury penthouse, an achievement born of years of relentless work. She expected congratulations from friends and followers, but never imagined the response it would provoke from her estranged family. The next day, her phone rang. It was her mother, Sylvia, voice clipped and formal. "Cambria," she said, "we need to meet. Now." Cambria froze, the familiar churn of anxiety returning. After years of neglect, their sudden interest for one reason, money, was painfully predictable. Lucas, sensing her tension, placed a reassuring hand on hers. "You don't have to go," he said softly. But Cambria knew this was her moment. Years of silence had built to a point where she needed to confront them, not just for herself, but to reclaim the power they had always denied her. As she drove to the old family estate on the outskirts of Portland, her mind raced with memories, birthdays forgotten, achievements ignored, the constant shadow of her brother's favoritism. This meeting wouldn't just be a confrontation. It would be the beginning of a reckoning, a chance to finally turn the tables and define what family and respect truly meant to her. And so, Cambria Voss prepared herself. The calm, confident woman the world knew was ready to face the ghosts of her past. But what her parents didn't realize was that Cambria's power wasn't just in her wealth or success. It was in the carefully crafted plan she had built, brick by brick, from years of being unseen. The storm was coming, and Cambria was ready. The Voss estate had not changed in years. The sprawling Georgian-style mansion still loomed behind its iron gates, its manicured lawns trimmed to sterile perfection. Cambria parked her car in the circular driveway, her chest tightening at the sight of the home that had never felt like hers. The front door creaked open, and Sylvia Voss appeared, her expression cool and composed, as though she had summoned Cambria for a business meeting rather than a reunion with her only daughter. Victor Voss stood just behind her, arms crossed, his posture radiating authority. Julian, as polished as ever in his tailored suit, leaned casually against the wall, smirking as if this were all a formality he had already won. "Cambria," Sylvia said, her voice brittle. "You look well." Cambria's lips curved into a polite smile that never reached her eyes. "I am well, mother. Thank you for noticing after, 7 years?" Victor cleared his throat, ignoring the jab. "Let's sit. We have important matters to discuss." They led her into the grand living room, where sunlight streamed through tall windows onto antique furniture. The room smelled faintly of polished wood and roses, unchanged since her childhood. Cambria sank into the sofa, her posture steady, while her family arranged themselves like royalty presiding over a subject. Victor wasted no time. Cambria, we've seen your recent success. The penthouse, the studio. It's impressive, though unexpected. Unexpected. Cambria tilted her head. You mean because you assumed I'd amount to nothing? Julian chuckled. Let's not dramatize. We simply didn't realize your little hobby could actually make money. Cambria's eyes hardened. It's not a hobby. It's a global creative agency with contracts your firm would salivate over, Julian. The smirk faltered, but only for a moment. Sylvia interjected, her tone sugar-coated. Darling, we're glad things have worked out for you. Truly. But you must understand, family takes care of family. And right now, the Voss legacy needs reinforcement. There it was. The real reason. Victor leaned forward, voice dropping into a practice persuasion. We've had some financial setbacks. Investments gone sideways. To maintain the estate and our reputation, we'll need support. From you. Cambria let silence stretch between them. Her heart pounded, but her face remained unreadable. So, after years of ignoring me, belittling me, and erasing me, you've decided I'm suddenly useful? Sylvia's expression tightened. Don't be childish, Cambria. This is bigger than feelings. It's about family survival. Cambria leaned back, her voice calm, almost amused. Funny. Survival. That's what I learned when I had nothing. When you refused to pay for my college dorm, I worked 3 jobs to survive. When you dismissed my art, I built a platform from scratch. I didn't just survive, I thrived. Without you. Victor's jaw clenched. Enough. We are your parents. You owe us. The word snapped something inside her. Cambria stood, her presence suddenly towering. I owe you nothing. Not after decades of silence. Julian scoffed. You think you're powerful now, but let's not pretend. Money doesn't erase the fact that you'll always be the forgotten one. Cambria smiled coldly. Funny you should say that. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder, sliding it across the polished coffee table. Inside were documents, proof of a massive deal. Voss Creative Studio had just signed an exclusive partnership with a global streaming platform worth $25 million. The contract bore her name, her signature, her success. Victor's eyes widened. Sylvia's hand twitched toward the folder. Julian's smirk vanished entirely. You came here thinking I'd bankroll your legacy, Cambria said softly, her tone laced with steel. But the truth is, I've already built mine. Alone. And I won't use it to prop up the house that tried to bury me. Sylvia's composure cracked. Cambria, please, think of the family name. Cambria's laugh was sharp, echoing through the pristine room. The family name? I've carried it like a chain around my neck. But no longer. From this day, the Voss name means me. My company. My future. Not this mansion. Not your reputation. Me. She turned to leave, but paused at the doorway, her hand on the frame. Oh, one more thing. You'll soon hear that I've pledged $5 million, not to you, but to community art programs across Portland. To kids like me, who were invisible in their own homes. They'll get the chances I never did. The silence behind her was deafening. When Cambria stepped into the crisp evening air, Lucas was waiting by her car. His steady gaze anchored her trembling heart. How did it go? He asked softly. Cambria exhaled, a slow, liberating breath. I ended it. On my terms. Lucas smiled, pulling her into an embrace. I'm proud of you. For the first time in her life, Cambria felt truly free. The weight of invisibility, the desperate longing for approval, it all fell away. She had faced the ghosts of her past and emerged stronger, her legacy no longer tied to the Voss estate but to the life she had built with her own hands. Yet as they drove away, Cambria couldn't shake the feeling that her family wasn't done. The look in Julian's eyes before she left, it wasn't defeat. It was a calculation. The storm she thought she had ended might just be the beginning. and Cambria Voss was ready for whatever came next. The weeks after Cambria's confrontation with her family were strangely quiet. Too quiet. Her company, Voss Creative Studio, thrived. The $25 million streaming partnership made headlines, and industry blogs praised her as a rising mogul redefining digital storytelling. Friends and colleagues congratulated her, and her penthouse overlooking the Willamette River became a hub of celebration. Yet at night, when the crowds thinned and only Lucas remained by her side, she couldn't ignore the unease gnawing at her. It was Julian's eyes, cold, calculating, not broken but plotting. Lucas noticed her tension. One evening, as they shared wine on the balcony, he touched her hand. "You did the hardest part, Cam. You faced them." Cambria nodded, gazing at the glittering city below. "It doesn't feel over. Not with Julian." Lucas studied her face, his jaw tightening. "Then we'll be ready. Together." The storm broke 2 months later. Cambria arrived at her studio one crisp Monday morning to find her operations manager pale with panic. "Cambria, there's a problem. The bank froze our accounts. They flagged irregularities." Cambria frowned. "That's impossible. Our books are clean." But as she dove into the paperwork, dread pooled in her stomach. Fraudulent transactions, forged authorizations, all under her company's name. It was deliberate sabotage, precise enough to trigger investigations. And in her inbox sat an anonymous email. "You built your empire on shadows. Let's see how long it lasts. J." Cambria's hands shook. She knew exactly who it was. Lucas urged her to go to the police, but Cambria hesitated. "This isn't just about money. Julian wants to destroy me, my credibility. If I run crying to the authorities, I play into his narrative." Still, she hired a private investigator, Ethan Price, a former journalist known for exposing corporate scandals. Within weeks, Ethan uncovered more than sabotage. Julian wasn't merely bitter. He was drowning. Julian had gambled recklessly on speculative real estate in Las Vegas, leveraging the family's fortune. The financial setbacks Victor mentioned were far darker: loan sharks, shell companies, offshore accounts. And worse, Ethan discovered ties between Julian and a laundering network connected to an international crime syndicate. Cambria's blood ran cold as she sifted through Ethan's evidence. Her brother wasn't just greedy, he was dangerous. Cambria confronted her parents with the findings, but Victor and Sylvia refused to listen. "Lies," Victor snapped, slamming the folder shut. "Julian is our son. He would never." "Open your eyes." Cambria shot back. "He's dragged your name into criminal waters. If this explodes, the Voss family will fall, not because of me, but because of him." Sylvia's eyes brimmed with denial. "You're jealous. You always have been. You'd do anything to tarnish Julian." The words hit Cambria like old wounds reopening, but she no longer cowered. "Believe what you want, but when the storm hits, don't say I didn't warn you." She walked out, leaving her parents crumbling in their gilded cage of delusion. Julian struck harder. Anonymous articles surfaced online, accusing Cambria of fraud and theft, painting her as a ruthless opportunist who built her empire on deception. Business partners wavered, deals hung in limbo. Lucas became her shield, attending every meeting, vouching for her integrity. Still, the pressure weighed heavily. One night, she broke down, her head buried in his chest. "I can't lose this, Lucas. I built it from nothing. It's my life." He cupped her face, his voice steady. "Then we fight. Not just for your company, but for you." Ethan dug deeper, discovering a scheduled meeting between Julian and syndicate contacts at a downtown hotel. Against Lucas' protests, Cambria insisted on being there. "I need to see it myself," she said. "I need to face him." The hotel bar hummed with low jazz and murmured conversations. Cambria slipped into a corner booth with Ethan, her nerves on fire. Lucas waited in a car outside, ready to intervene. Julian arrived in a tailored suit, but his eyes were bloodshot, his smile too wide. He sat with two men, sharp, cold, their accents clipped. Ethan whispered, "Syndicate muscle." Cambria watched, heart pounding, as Julian handed them a briefcase. Money, promises, desperation. She snapped photos discreetly, evidence she could use. But then Julian's gaze flicked up and landed on her. His smile twisted into something venomous. Well, well. The ghost of the forgotten sister, he drawled, striding toward her. The syndicate men followed, their presence suffocating. Cambria stood, her voice firm despite the tremor in her chest. You won't win, Julian. I know everything. The laundering, the debts, the lies. It ends tonight. Julian laughed, low and cruel. You think anyone cares about your righteous crusade? Money talks louder than truth. And I have friends who don't mind silencing problems. One of the syndicate men stepped forward, menace in his eyes. Perhaps she needs convincing. Ethan subtly reached for his phone, but Julian raised a hand. No. Not here. His face darkened. But know this, Cambria. You've made yourself a target. You should have stayed invisible. With that, he walked out, flanked by his dangerous allies. Cambria's legs nearly buckled, but Ethan steadied her. We have enough. Photos, witnesses, the money handoff. It's enough to bury him. The next weeks were a blur of strategy. Ethan worked on his contacts in journalism. Cambria prepared statements. Lucas tightened security at their penthouse. And then, the bomb dropped. Headlines exploded across national outlets. Julian Voss tied to international laundering scheme. Voss family legacy crumbles amid criminal allegations. The FBI raided Julian's office. The mansion was swarmed with investigators. Victor and Sylvia, blindsided, finally faced the truth of their son's corruption. Cambria watched the chaos unfold on the news, a bittersweet ache in her chest. She had saved her company, her name, but at the cost of destroying what was left of her family. Julian was arrested, his smirk replaced by hollow fury as cameras flashed. When asked about his sister, he spat venom into the microphones. She betrayed me. She'll regret this. The words chilled Cambria, but she stood tall. Weeks later, Cambria stood in her penthouse, overlooking the river as dawn painted the sky. Lucas wrapped his arms around her from behind, his warmth grounding her. It's over, he whispered. Cambria nodded slowly. No, it's never really over. But it's my turn to write the story now. She had faced the neglect of her childhood, the betrayal of her family, and the threats of crime and power. She had walked through fire and come out unburned. Her legacy was no longer about the Voss name. It was about resilience, love, and the shadows she turned into light. As the sun broke fully over Portland, Cambria Voss closed her eyes, ready for whatever shadows lingered ahead. Because she was no longer invisible. She was unstoppable.